when I was at the Young Turks, and so I was close with Ben Mankiewicz, who's a fantastic guy. I love Ben Mankiewicz, and so I would go to parties with all these Hollywood elite, right? Because he's the host of Turner Classic Movies, and he knows everybody, and his family's Hollywood royalty. And I remember right after Trump, man, they were just convinced that people voted for Trump because of racism, and we got to fight racism. And I was just like, "You guys fucking crazy." And I thought it was just jagoff. And then I'd walk over and some other jagoff would say the same thing. And I'm like, you guys are fucking nuts. And then I did have fucking arguments at these parties. And it wasn't too long before I couldn't get elected. I couldn't get invited to any of those parties. I stopped getting invited to my friend Ben's parties because I was bad to be known with around Jimmy Dore, who doesn't support the Democratic Party and stuff, because that I have to, by default, I have to support the Republicans in their mind. And that was bad for, everybody's image. So, but that's really what they thought. They had no other. And so it goes back to the basic problem of the left in America, is that it's not connected to workers. It's connected like, oh, so Samantha Bee was just on The View. And she's on there, and so now she has to pretend to be the biggest champion of women in the world because she got caught calling another woman a cunt on her show. Remember when she did that? And so then she's still apologizing for it, just like Jon Stewart is still apologizing for saying the lab leak theory was true. So she was on The View, and so now she's pretending, she's a big, I don't know, pretending. She's super focused on championing women because she got in trouble for saying the C word. And so she was saying, oh, I would love to see, a late night host as a female. It's such a tragedy that it isn't a. And I'm like, see, that's what they're focused on. They're not focused on, wouldn't it be great if women had health care? Wouldn't it be great if women, right? Wouldn't it be great if women had access to education without going bankrupt? Wouldn't it be great if they had childcare and daycare and pre-care and kindercare and all that shit? Wouldn't it be great for women? No, it'd be great if a woman got a fucking executive position on a television show. That's all they think. So that's considered left in America. And you can see why people who we have a lot in common economically and a lot of in other ways would think the left, they don't want to have anything to do with the left, that's what the fucking left is, worried about all this bullshit of culture issues instead of economic issues. Well, the real left is, right? But this is the pretend left. This is the fucking professional managerial class left that dominates the media. And so that's what people think and that's why most people don't fucking vote, right? Because most people see that if they don't speak to them, and it's all noise, and their life just keeps getting worse. But the people that need to rise up are getting fooled by people like Bernie Sanders and the squad into still thinking that keep voting, keep doing it. And then they never tell them what to actually do.
Yes.
They never tell them that what the truckers did in Canada is what you got to do. You got to shut down capitalism. And when you do, you can demand shit. You can bring a government to its knees. Well, they quickly revealed themselves that the real Nazis was the government in Canada, because they then froze their bank accounts and they called them terrorists. And they said they were violent and they said they were Nazis. And we found out that's just part of the CIA playbook now, that's exactly what they do when they actually are about to grab power. They do all that. That's what they did. And it's come out that there was absolutely no violence. There was the most peaceful rallies. And of course, the cops lied about them. And of course, the only Nazi flag was by a guy who was an infiltrator, was all made up. And that's all. And so what those people, and by the way, the truckers were vaccinated at a higher rate than the general population in Canada. They weren't protesting medicine. They were protesting bullshit authoritarianism. And they were right.
I was suspect about that, Jimmy, when I saw the same tactics they used against the trucker protest that they used against the George Floyd protest. And it was where I saw the leftists use the same tactics, where they'll focus on small individual events that started by agent provocateurs and infiltrators. And they did. I've been studying these tactics for a long time as someone who co-founded 10 Demands. Like I know these tactics that they do to discredit protests and make them seem violent. The same strategy they did to George Floyd, they did to the trucker protests. Label them violent, label them thugs, but they did it from a liberal point of view as well. Go ahead.
And they called them white supremacists.
Yes. Yeah, so I saw many people on the left fall for that same strategy where they was doing that. And I am extremely suspect of these people because, to my point I made earlier before, they want to cancel so many people of the working class, but they are extremely lenient to the bourgeoisie. they're extremely lenient to the professional managerial class. So when Bernie funds the war, oops, Bernie made a mistake. But God forbid an activist tweet something bad 3 years ago. If an activist said something bad 3 years ago on Twitter, they'd be canceled. But AOC can fucking vote for Capitol Police funding, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's and this is the kind of up, down, top from the top thinking that does not make sense to me. Where they trust the leaders, but they want to distrust activists. And any other thoughts you guys have? And I want to get to another story here.
The Democratic Party has become a cult. And that's not hyperbole. And Jon Stewart just experienced that. And Russell Brand is experiencing that. And so if you tell a truth that's out, so no kidding, Jon Stewart, one of my most popular videos ever in the history of my show was a video I just did last week about Jon Stewart. He got canceled. I didn't know this. So when he went on 18 months ago, I guess it was, when he went on Stephen Colbert and he made fun of the lab leak, like how could you say it's not from this lab, right? And he did it hilariously. It was a really tight comedy bit. And Stephen Colbert called him a he said, how long you been working with Senator Johnson and shit like that.
What?
And he cut the legs out from underneath him and Jon Stewart had to like yell at him. And at one point he got off the couch and just went to the camera because Stephen Colbert kept trying to kneecap his comedy bit because he knows you can't say this. He couldn't, and there's Jon Stewart saying it. And so after that, Jon Stewart just revealed, I guess, on his show a week or two ago. That's how I found out about it. He released a video where he was called a racist for that. He said the backlash was swift and was brutal. And he said that I was called a racist, and I was called a white supremacist. I was called a right winger. And I was like, welcome to my world, John. You went outside the cult. You told the truth that your cult leaders don't want people to know. And that's the worst thing. You can lie all day long. People get upset if you lie. People get upset when you tell a truth, and that's who gets censored. People who don't telling a truth that the establishment doesn't want, like Julian Assange, that people like Edward Snowden. Those are the people who are really getting censored, right? People who are telling the truth about COVID narrative and the vaccines. Those are the people who are. It's not. So Jon Stewart got a taste of it, and I was been trying to figure out why would he pin a Nazi on pin a medal on a Nazi at Disney World, right?
That's horrible.
And then not talk about it. Why would he give tongue baths to Condoleezza Rice and Hillary Clinton when he got it right? Why would he do what was the point of him doing that? They didn't get anything out of it. They didn't break any news. There was nothing. It was just and out of that. And then when he came out and he was talking about how people were telling him, "Wow, I'm fucking done with you." That's what he said. He goes, "I couldn't believe it." People are like, "I'm fucking done with you," and I'll never. And I'm like, "Yeah, that you went outside the cult, asshole." And now instead of calling it what it is, a cult. It's like, why can't we just figure out how to talk about the fucking cult? And you went outside it, and that's what he was doing. He got his mind right. That's why he pinned a medal on a Nazi. That's why he did that tongue bath to Hillary Clinton and Condoleezza Rice. And he's been trying to get back in good graces. And he literally said, he goes, it was like I said, lock up Hillary on my forehead. So that's who you're talking about. That's the cult, that cult of Hillary, that whole thing that they did the same thing. So anybody who goes outside of it is they called Bernie Sanders a Russian and a misogynist. For fuck's sake, don't you think they're going to do that to you?